Let's take a look at the teams that they've decided to bring to this 25th Invitational, and there is so much interesting choices to look at here. Ryota, bringing some really great Pokemon here. We've got that Calyrex Shadow Rider once again, but a very different composition to the match that we saw it previously featured in. We've got the Whimsicott, we've got the Indeedee, the male version of that Pokemon. We more predominantly see the female version in Pokemon Play, so it's great to see this addition to the team, as well as a classic favorite, that Arcanine, as opposed to an Incineroar, as well with the Mienshao and the Stack Attacker. So really looking forward to seeing how this kind of synergy of this team all comes together. You've got some great options here. You've got a variety of speed controls with the Whimsicott being able to go for something like a Tailwind, and then again, that Stack Attacker going for something like a Trick Room. So going to be very interesting to see which option Ryota wants to go for.
Well, we're so lucky, Lou, that we get to have Stack Attacker on both sides of the field. Let's try and avoid that one. I do think Sejun bringing the Crocodile, though, is actually so exciting, being able to see him, use that Pokemon that Ryota was so big with in 2017 against him. Obviously, the way he handled it in game number 1 up in Winners Round 1 didn't quite work out, got knocked out very early on by a number of things just going after it. And if Sejun wants to stay in the tournament, I think that's going to have to become more of a focal point. But we've got Stack Attacker mirrors to consider. We've got male Indeedee, female Indeedee, opposites as well. A Torkoal without a Venusaur. There's so much going on, and I think this is going to be a really exciting game.
Yeah, there's so much to figure out, not only in kind of the team building, the team composition, but then also how the matchup is going to go. So I think we should jump straight into game 1 and see how these two very interesting, very varied teams are going to go down against each other.
The lead's probably going to be pretty important for these teams. I think both of them kind of rely on them as a bit of a focal point. There's one restricted Pokemon in lead and 2. Both trainers making the commitment to bring their restricted Pokemon in, but I think that Crocodile is really, really good here.
Yeah, Sejun just leading out with the Pokemon we both wanted to see. That Crocodile paired up with the restricted of Xerneas in the face of Ryota's Shadow Calyrex and the Indeedee as well. So really interesting to see how this Xerneas is going to be able to fare here. If it's able to get up something like a Geomancy here, it can often be unstoppable, particularly in a format where you only have one restricted Pokemon.
I think this Xerneas is in really good position to set up a Geomancy. The Crocodile applying huge pressure to both the Shadow Rider Calyrex and this male Indeedee. Just being able to sit there and cause some problems, really, really important. The Indeedee, though, definitely has options to cause a bit of a conundrum, I'd say, for Sejun. I'm not the perfect at translating, but I think there's going to be some excitement coming through and how he plays out this turn. There's an option here which is so specific at countering Xerneas, it's unreal. And the Calyrex leaving, absolutely fine. That's not what I'm interested in.
Well, it could well be this Indeedee. Very, very speedy Indeedee on the field, going for a trick here, and it looks like it is putting that Choice Scarf onto the opposing Xerneas here. So not only giving it extra speed, but going to be locking it down into this Geomancy, essentially rendering it offensively useless on the battlefield. The Crocodile able to target down, I believe, with the Throat Chop there into that opposing Mienshao, able to take that really well. So a great switch in here from Ryota, and what an amazing play with that trick.
That's so specific to counter something like the Xerneas. Yeah, it's a good option, but now saying, you know what, you're actually stuck with this item, you're going to have to switch out this turn, unless you want to just sit on the field and Geomancy, and then just be able to capitalize off that, see what else has been bought. Really, really cool. I like the Mienshao switch in a lot. I think it's very wise, and Sejun just kind of going for it a little bit on the nose there, saying, actually, I'm going to go right after the Shadow Rider Calyrex. Really nice from Ryota to be able to bring in something relatively safe and take those hits pretty well. The Crocodile, yeah, the Throat Chop, not able to put down enough there, and Sejun forced into a big switch now.
And I think the beauty as well of getting rid of that Choice Scarf for the Indeedee is it now has the flexibility to pick through different move pools here. So it's not just going to be tied down. Unfortunately, though, the Xerneas is going to be locked into this Geomancy. I mean, it's great for it. It's getting all of these boosts. Of course, Geomancy boosting up special attack, special defense, and speed by 2 stages. But it's going to have to go for that again. It's a huge damage coming out here from the Mienshao with that close combat into the opposing Indeedee that just switched in. Not enough to be able to pick up a KO, though, but certainly putting it in a vulnerable state when this Dazzling Gleam follows up, dealing minimal damage to that opposing Xerneas, but picking up the KO against Indeedee. So Sejun no longer has that Pokemon to come in and redirect attacks away from Xerneas.
No, and that's exactly what I think Ryota needed to do. Take advantage of the fact that the Xerneas was a non-factor in that last turn and just go after that slot. It worked out so nicely that the same combination of moves, close combat and, of course, the Dazzling Gleam, probably what we're going to see again over on this Crocodile. You know, the Crocodile locked itself into the throat chop, had to switch out, but even with the Choice Scarf, you know, now actually Sejun has 2 Choice Scarves, which is quite nice for him, but one of them is not the place you want it at all. And obviously, assuming that Ryota can get through whatever this Crocodile throws out, you know, the same combination, close combat, and then the Dazzling Gleam could be a bit of a problem, but this Crocodile being asked to do a lot of work.
Well, the Mienshao able to survive on 3 HP, firing off that powerful close combat into the opposing Crocodile here is going to be able to pick up the solid KO against it. I mean, what an amazing survive there for the Mienshao, just able to pick up the solid KO. The Indeedee going to go for another Dazzling Gleam with the Dragonite having switched in, single target, Fairy Toe move, going to deal good damage, not enough to be able to pick up sort of that 50% margin, but you never know, potentially in the next one that could be enough if something's followed up by that Mienshao. Xerneas rejoining the field here, but, you know, Xerneas still doesn't exactly have the option to Geomancy here, Adam.
No, it's still going to be dealing with the fact it got given a nice little present, got given that Choice Scarf, and yeah, it'll get to move first, but now it's got to pick Dazzling Gleam or Moonblast and just try and get after, you know, everything on this field. And if you're not getting knockouts, then you're not getting the boost from Geomancy either, so something like the Calyrex should be able to pick up a knockout pretty easily on the way back in. The Dragonite heavily damaged. Yes, it's the right switch in to try and deal with that, I think, but, you know, not really in the best position, just taking so much health on the way in. A lot to do for Sejun in this game. I just don't see it. I think that turn 1 play with the trick has just been devastating.
Well, Speedy with the Choice Scarf and still offensively precious here, going for the Moonblast into that opposing Indeedee. Does a good chunk of damage. I believe that was knockoff going down into the opposing Dragonite, being able to knock off the Life Orb there. And, you know, unfortunately, Life Orb or no Life Orb, Dragonite's not going to be able to deal any damage as the Indeedee is able to pick up the KO against it. So really formidable offensive pressure coming out here from Ryota straight away. And, you know, this poor Xerneas, it's locked into that Moonblast now. It's only really got single target options here, so I'm not surprised to see the forfeit being locked in.
Yeah, I think he got caught short on that turn 1 play and was just never quite able to recover. But Ryota did everything correctly, and I don't think that can be understated. Yes, got away with the cheeky trick in turn 1, great. But after that, you know, just didn't let up, didn't give an opportunity, didn't try and get the Xerneas when it was stuck on the field. Pressure down on the other side, going after that Crocodile. Yes, you got given the Indeedee, but you got the knockout. Then Crocodile came back. Keep going, keep putting down those knockouts, and played it perfectly. And at the end, you know, Sejun was just caught in a really tough situation, which was, yeah, I'm fast, but I can't have both Moonblast and Dazzling Gleam. I think the Moonblast was the right play. If you get the knockout on Indeedee, things are looking a little bit better that turn, but it just fell short because you don't have those Geomancy boosts.
Exactly, it was like 1 KO after another, and the Xerneas that we kind of talked about getting that Geomancy up and being unstoppable, well, it did technically get a Geomancy up, but it was literally stopped from doing anything else by that Choice Scarf. So a really nice little trick, quite literally, that the Indeedee was able to play, but of course, Sejun's going to be wise to this. So as we jump into game 2, I wonder what adjustments Sejun's going to make to see if you can, you know, obviously not fall for the same trick twice.
It's got to, if he's going to bring the Xerneas, which I think in this format you kind of have to, it's your 1 restricted, got to be a little more respectful of the potential plays coming through, and it's not going to be available though. Ryota not bringing that in his lead does mean that the Xerneas is probably feeling a little bit better about its chances to set up the Geomancy.
Yeah, I mean, you know, leads coming out here from Sejun, the Crocodile and the Xerneas once again, but Ryota has really shaken things up here. We've got the Mienshao and the Whimsicott coming forward, and Whimsicott as well can be such a tricky Pokemon. You know, you can go for something like Tailwind if it is running something like Taunt as well. That's a way to shut down the opposing Xerneas, but you have to worry about, you know, potentially Indeedee coming in and setting up that Psychic Terrain as well, because that will stop any of those Prankster moves. So it's going to be interesting to see what Whimsicott's going to go for here.
The Whimsicott definitely needs to help out, and this Mienshao is the only thing really trying to deal damage. You've got to be careful, though. Make sure that the Whimsicott doesn't catch you out the same way that something else has. This Crocodile, though, running scared, seeing what the Mienshao did to it last time, not tolerating any of that nonsense. And if Ryota capitalizes here, it could be dangerous. That Psychic Terrain helping out as well with the Prankster nonsense that, of course, Whimsicott gets up to. So really smart play there, I think, to switch that around.
Oh, seeing the Moonblast come out here from the Whimsicott. Would have thought that might have gone into the opposing Crocodile, but instead into the opposing Xerneas, and does manage to get the drop. The Mienshao able to go for the knockoff here. It's going to knock off the Herb here on the opposing Xerneas, so it's going to turn this Geomancy from a 1-turn boost from the Power Herb into now being a 2-turn move, as sort of it's standardly meant to be if you don't have that item. So it does buy Ryota a little bit of time to try and deal with that Xerneas before it is able to get the boost up, but having the Indeedee on the field for Sejun, maybe redirecting some attacks away, could be optimal here.
I mean, it might still get to get the full Geomancy up. Just being able to, you know, sit on the field with that redirection help from the Indeedee, really, really important there. And, you know, the switch from Ryota kind of saying, well, I know I need to go on the offensive soon, so let's get it going. Let me get my restricted in, as there it is, the follow me trying to cause some problems.
Yeah, great support from the Indeedee, redirecting that powerful Moonblast through. This Whimsicott is really, you know, putting in some strong effort here, as the Xerneas is now able to be able to get that Geomancy up in full. It doesn't have a choice scarf in this particular game as well, so it's not locked into it, meaning in the next turn it's going to be able to go for some of those powerful moves we've seen Xerneas go for in the past, Moonblast, Dazzling Gleam, so it has kind of multi-target options here.
And that's really good for Sejun to get through these turns and get the Geomancy set up, even though Ryota tried the full way to stop it, just deal damage, knock off the Power Herb. Managed to play through it really well, though, and this Xerneas could just run away with the game. You know, it's so fast, it's so powerful, and Ryota's team isn't exactly bulky and doesn't have, from what we've seen so far, many options to try and defend against it. It's also going to get kept pretty safe by the Indeedee as well, if that's something that Sejun's worried about. So yeah, I do think the Xerneas could run away with the game.
Yep, just the classic Tailwind coming out here from that Whimsicott, as the Calyrex is going to be able to protect, doesn't want to take any damage from this opposing Xerneas, has opted for the Dazzling Gleam, so Whimsicott unfortunately not going to be able to avoid being KO'd by that move. It's a double target move, of course, and the Indeedee not going to be able to deal anything either due to the protect of the Calyrex. But I think Whimsicott did its job there, able to get the Tailwind up, so the Pokemon that Ryota has in the back can come through and try and capitalize on that.
Getting that set up, you know, is pretty important, especially when you're in the face of a Geomancy boosted Xerneas. That levels you up on the speed count. Then, of course, you got to work through the special attack and special defense issue that got set up, but at least you're a step closer to doing it. I like this adaptation from Ryota to have the stack attacker. This team is just so anti-Xerneas, it's a little bit unreal. The whole team seems to be about trying to deal with that and not let that happen. But Sejun's still in a good position, even though the team is so unfriendly to something like the Xerneas.
Yeah, I mean, Stack Attacker can take most sort of actions from that Xerneas anyway, but having the Psychic Seed on there as well, boosting up the, you know, the special defense, going to be able to take those attacks even better here. And of course, it can apply a lot of pressure with something like a Gyro Ball down into that opposing Xerneas that is now below 50% health as well. Very likely going to be able to pick up a KO, but while that Indeedee is able to redirect those attacks away, Ryota's going to have some trouble doing it. Expanding Force going to come out though, capitalizing on the Psychic Terrain in play, but not enough to be able to pick up a KO on either of Sejun's Pokemon, meaning the Moonblast is able to come out from that opposing Xerneas into the Calyrex and pick up the solid KO against it, meaning Ryota has lost his restricted Pokemon very early on here. The Indeedee going to go for an Expanding Force of its very own, and as you can see, Stack Attacker able to take that marvelously and in a position where it can go for a Rock Slide here into both of Sejun's Pokemon, finding its mark. They were both on such low HP. Stack Attacker able to claim 2 KOs.
Really, really big for the Stack Attacker to do that. I think without that follow-up knockout, really going to be causing a problem. And I like that, you know, Ryota's understood that and just said, all right, we've got to get attacks down. Didn't mess around, went for the spread moves to avoid any follow me nonsense. Really, really wise in that turn. But now, don't forget, Ryota down to his last 2, you know, with that change up. And Sejun stuck with his last 2 as well. I think matchup-wise is just in a great position to deal with what Ryota has on the field. That Crocodile answers the Stack Attacker so nicely. Of course, Dragonite has options to deal with the Mienshao as well. So really, really good board position. Ryota's going to need a lot out of the Mienshao, I think, to get this knockout. Needs to hit that knockout immediately on the Crocodile, but it did just get intimidated to make that job even harder.
Yeah, and I think Stack Attacker, I believe it got the defense boost from the beast boost there as well, so that could help it out. But thanks to the Intimidate, it's not going to be having that same kind of offensive pressure that we just saw it deal. As well, you know, it is in Tailwind, but Stack Attack is so slow, it's not really going to capitalize on that. However, the Mienshao is going to be able to capitalize on the Tailwind, outspeed that Choice Scarf Crocodile, and pick up a solid KO against it. Adam, that's exactly what you said Ryota needed to do. Remove that Crocodile, it's gone.
Yeah, no chance about dealing with that one, but will it be the Mienshao just getting absolutely taken out in response? You know, brought down to its focus sash, the dual wing beat there, though, making sure that it got the knockout through the focus sash. Everything on this Stack Attacker now to try and deal with this Dragonite, and it's not going to be getting there. Just not being able to deal that. You know, it's a 1v1. We've seen crazier 1v1s. This, I'll be honest, this is not the one I was expecting to see in this tournament.
It definitely wasn't, but I'm very excited that it is a Stack Attacker versus a Dragonite rather than Stack Attacker versus Stack Attacker. There's certainly a few really interesting options here. You know, we've seen the Dragonite still got its life orb here as well, and if the Stack Attacker, huge damage coming out there from the Fire Punch, going to be able to deal huge damage to Stack Attacker. That defense boost not helping out at all onto Stack Attacker, and it looks like Stack Attacker is going for the Trick Room. I was going to say, I wasn't sure if it was Rock Slide or not, but now just putting the speed into Stack Attacker's sort of advantage here. You can go for those Rock Slides, try and get some flinches, and just chip away at this Dragonite if it's unable to move. But I'm pretty sure one Fire Punch is going to be able to clean out this game if Sejun's able to get Dragonite to move.
I believe it's actually the superpower on the Dragonite. Watching those stats go down after the attack, really making things a little bit easier for this Stack Attacker. The Rock Slide does connect this time. Doesn't get the knockout, though.
Ooh, yeah, no knockout there. So the Dragonite is able to retaliate, pick up the KO, and Sejun is able to take this to a game 3. Dragonite is going to, KO itself to its Life Orb recoil as well. But what an exciting way to end out game 2. And of course, your sort of translations are getting better than mine here. Of course, that sort of damage coming out from the Dragonite, really powerful. Didn't catch the drops, though, but I'll keep an eye out for them in game 3.
And the lowering the stats made that so dangerously close as well. And you know what saved it? Is that earlier Intimidate from the Crocodile. Obviously, missing that Rock Slide, the turn where the Crocodile and the Mienshao exchanged, would have been a really big deal if that had hit. I think that would have made things much more comfortable for Ryota. But doesn't get it. That's the issue with Rock Slide. It's a dangerous move. And then Sejun is able to clutch it out with the superpowers. Yes, he knocks himself out, makes it real close when it comes down to dealing with the stat drops on his side, but able to clutch it out. And this is going to be our second game in the losers bracket that goes all the way to game 3. We're back best of 1 to stay in the tournament.
I mean, we've seen Dragonite make some historic comebacks in the past in Pokemon matches, but that's certainly one for the Dragonite record books as well. Just being able to survive that Rock Slide, pick up the KO, and like you say, take it to a game 3. So once again, we're in that situation where one player is going to advance into the losers bracket, and we're going to have to say goodbye to one of our players here at the Invitational. So let's jump into game 3 and find out which of our elusive players is going to be here going forward in the tournament and who is going to be going home out of the losers bracket. But for Sejun, sticking with the same lead, it's that Crocodile and the Xerneas, whereas Ryota has gone for the Calyrex and the Mienshao.
Really stuck with this lead on Sejun's side. He knows how good it can be, and just deciding, hey, I'm going to make sure I get these attacks in. I'm going to make sure I apply the pressure. And once again, that Shadow Rider Calyrex, I think, is in danger when that Crocodile is on the board. What's a little bit different to game number 1 is that Mienshao isn't available as a switch in to catch it, to make sure that, hey, I can take the Throat Chop way better than the Shadow Rider Calyrex. So a little bit to think about. Obviously, it all comes down to what do you have to stop the Xerneas setting up. And I'm not quite sure if over the next couple turns there's an easy way to stop that.
Yeah, the Xerneas really has been kind of the deciding Pokemon here. Game 1 was able to be shut down so magnificently by Ryota, but then Sejun was able to get it into its prime position there in that game 2. Wonder if Ryota is going to be able to sort of counter it in this particular game. It looks like, however, Sejun does have some good options here, being able to apply some pressure with the Crocodile into that opposing Calyrex, but then you've got to watch out for that Mienshao. We've seen how destructive it can be into the opposing Crocodile. So Ryota going to make a change straight away here, bringing that Stack Attacker out into the fray. And, it looks like it's the Brutal Swing coming out from that Crocodile.
Yeah, the Crocodile revealing a little bit more of its moveset every single time. Just trying to get wide amounts of damage down there.
Exactly, the knockoff going down into that opposing Xerneas. So one strategy that Ryota has gone for before to try and knock off the item to stop the Geomancy from going off in one turn, buying that extra turn to try and pick up some KO damage. But, you know, Xerneas was able to capitalize on it last time. I wonder if it's going to get Geomancy up here.
I mean, it's got a big ask, and it's stuck on the field. That's the problem. The knockoff means it's stuck. It can't do anything, and this stack attacker coming in at a perfect time, Ryota thinking a turn, maybe 2 ahead, and just saying, you know what, this is fine. The only thing that could apply a threat to that stack attacker just left the field. So this could be a disastrous turn for Sejun, as yes, you know, the Mienshau's not going to get to land a juicy knockout on the Crocodile, but you just gave the Psychic Seed over to the stack attacker as well. This one, based on what I saw selected, looks like it's gone from bad to worse.
Yeah, I mean, huge damage going down into that Indeedee, but the Xerneas is so vulnerable here. Like you said, it's locked into going for this Geomancy. It can't escape, and the stack attackers here on the field, it can go for that gyro ball into it, pick up some big damage against it, or, you know, could even change up the kind of speed tiers on the battlefield. It will, however, get its Geomancy boost up as the gyro ball comes out from stack attacker. They're targeting down into the Xerneas and is able to pick up a KO against it. So we have seen another masterful way that Ryota has on his team to be able to combat that Xerneas, as well as getting the cheeky beast boost as well.
Ryota really doesn't like Xerneas, I think. Just looking at the way this team has been put together, you know, slowing it down, giving it weird items, taking away its item. Just so many options to deal with it. And that, you know, early couple turns, the way that game plan played out, puts Ryota in such a commanding position. Now he's kind of got to pivot his focus a little bit, deal with the Crocodile at some point to try and, of course, allow that Shadow Rider Calyrex to come back in at the end of the game. But that's a lot more manageable than a special attack, special defense, and speed boosted something like the Xerneas. So definitely more manageable, not a restricted. And, you know, as we've got to look at Ryota's menus, we do know that he has the Whimsicott available, and the Whimsicott's going to make that even easier to do so.
Exactly. Of course, having the sort of inner focus on the Mienshao is really helpful here in the face of that Intimidate. But I think the critical thing as well is Indeedee's here able to kind of redirect away anything that the Mienshao is able to throw out. You know, the Crocodile can then be preserved that little bit more. It doesn't have to take one of those powerful close combats straight away in this situation.
No, I mean, it can buy a little bit of time, play it a little bit safe, you know, maybe try and weave in something a little more aggressive. You know, this Crocodile is now the focal point of the team from what's remaining, and it's got to make the right choice with this choice scarf that it's carrying. If you misstep on what you lock into, you know, then you can get yourself in a little bit of trouble, and then the Mienshao can just go after you. I don't think there's an easy way to just immediately knock out the Mienshao. You know, or without, I'd say go for, you know, just throw out some moves and see how it goes. But this is a big decision for Sejun.
Well, the high horsepower coming out with the Choice Scarf variant going to go down into the Mienshao, and that's one way to deal with it. Removed it straight away from play as the stack attacker decides to change up the speed here, bringing that Trick Room into the fray. So we know that that's Crocodile's going to be locked into that sort of high horsepower now, but it's not going to be the speediest thing, as Trick Room is going to be in effect. But this is certainly interesting when you consider the Pokemon that Ryota does have in the back. They tend to favor that kind of speedier environment, but I suppose when you're facing down against a Pokemon with a Choice Scarf, Trick Room isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world.
And it really puts all the focus on the stack attacker, saying, I think I can win this one with the stack attacker, and stack attacker is all I need to get there. You know, once you've got the Trick Room up, the stack attacker is not really threatened now. The only thing that really causes a problem is the speed issue. Yes, you lose the Mienshao to high horsepower. You know that it's locked into high horsepower, which is actually what it wants to be locked into. But without a Tailwind up, I still think this Crocodile is just going to get felled before there's any option for it to weave in the high horsepower, which the stack attacker wouldn't appreciate.
Well, I was saying Whimsicott going for something like a Moonblast here. Stack Attacker is going to move, you know, first in Trick Room. It can potentially deal with that Indeedee, leaving, you know, the Moonblast free to target down into that opposing Crocodile and do a huge amount of damage. So if you're Sejun here, you maybe have the option to switch into your fourth Pokemon in the back. Maybe try and preserve some Pokemon, sort of go through these Trick Room turns. But looks like we're not going to see any of that here. It's just going to be coming straight out. I believe that was the Body Press coming out from the Stack Attacker into the opposing Indeedee, and I think that's where the Beast Boost, raising that defense stat, I think it's now got +2 defense, really going to pay off, boosting up those Body Press damage outputs as the Moonblast comes out from that opposing Whimsicott, targeting down into the Crocodile. Not enough to be able to pick up the KO, but of course putting it in a very vulnerable state. High horsepower going to target down. No surprises there into the stack attacker, but it's able to take it absolutely beautifully.
Yeah, getting those boosts really important, and the stack attacker is still on the field and still very much in the driving seat for the next turn. Yes, it did have to, you know, make sure it dealt with the Ndidi first. It's a little bit annoying, but you know, you make that trade, you get your beast boost going as well, and you're still in a great position. The stack attacker should just be able to kind of see this one out. Also having the Moonblast, this Whimsicott coming in, you know, able to apply pressure to both of these Pokemon. So I think in this turn, Ryota should just be able to clean it up, and knowing that it can't protect, make sure he deals with the Crocodile, his own favored Pokemon. He had to do it to him, but it must sting a little bit.
Oh, the heartbreak picking up a KO, but at least it was sort of nice and quick there. You know, the body press just removing it from play. And the dual wing beat coming up once again, you know, really working around the Whimsicott here, picking up a KO against it, leaving, you know, once again we can see the stack attacker versus a Dragonite in play. But Ryota has some friends to also bring to this end game of Game 3.
Yeah, the Whimsicott going down there just kind of slows things down. I think this stack attacker is so strong right now, and the options as well. We've seen a little bit of the moveset on this Dragonite. There's no spread options available, so not going to be in a great position to try and clean this one up. The stack attacker is going to get to move first as well, so it's really a case of, you know, what do you want to try and get knocked out by. This is just super safe from Ryota, and if Sejun goes after it, this game is going to get wrapped up.
Yeah, the Gyro Ball just coming out straight down into the Dragonite, does a huge chunk of damage against it, and the Dragonite actually chose to target into that opposing Calyrex that has protected, so no damage going to be able to be dealt out by Sejun's Dragonite, and this now, you know, again, puts Ryota in this brilliant position where you've got this really fast Calyrex. The HP has dwindled down onto that opposing Dragonite, and you've also got the Gyro Ball coming out, picking up the KO, meaning that you've got Ryota able to take this set, stay in the competition, and unfortunately